Hey y'all, and this video I'm going to show y'all the steps to repairing the Power Team P55 and the P59, which are one's a single stage, one's a two-stage or two-speed pump. Stay tuned here and we're going to rebuild this baby. Okay, first step we're going to do is remove the handle. You've got a couple of snap rings on these two pins. Remove the pins. Okay, get that sucker out of your way. Be sure and put your parts somewhere where you can keep up with everything. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is, if it's got oil in it, take out this plug on the back end and drain the oil. This one's already dry, has no oil in it, so I don't have to drain it. But drain your oil out. Next step we're going to do is we're going to remove the reservoir, the big long part right here. You've got a 9/16 cap nut back here on the back. So, like I said, be sure and drain your oil first. Sometimes there's a real long screw right here. Sometimes the cap nut will come off first and the screw will stay in there. It also has an O-ring on here. Or sometimes the long screw will unscrew with the cap nut. Either way, anyway, you're going to pull that out. If it comes out, if it's still staying in there, then you'll have to remove the reservoir to get it out. And what you're going to do here is it just pushes up inside here, the base. This is the base, and there's an O-ring seal in here, and you can just wiggle it usually. Sometimes you need to put this in a vise to pull on it, but generally we'll just wiggle loose and pull out. That's your reservoir. You can take that and put it out of your way for now. Now, like I said, sometimes this will have, it screws into the bottom here. So sometimes that will still stay in there. So go ahead and unscrew that if it's still there. Get that out of your way. Because now you're down just at the base unit of it. Next thing you're going to do is just go ahead and pull your pump piston here out. It's still here. Just pull it out of your way. Now, you can take your release valve out. As you can see, the release valve has a stop on here to where you can't unscrew it unless you back off on these two Allen screws. So you're going to take you an Allen wrench and remove both of those, or loosen them. You don't have to remove them, just loosen them enough to where this will pull off out of your way. Now, I'm going to tell you something on one of these things. If you're having problems with this pump, say it just all of a sudden just quit pumping, or you let somebody borrow it or something, sometimes what happens is that those Allens will get loose and it will back off to where when you think you're tightening it up, but you're actually not. This will still be loose. This is your release valve. So this will feel tight or be loose, but it'll feel like you're tightening it up, but you're not. And what it's doing is it's still in release mode. And so what you have to do is just tighten this back down. If it is like that, you can check that first. If it's not leaking or anything, make sure that's tight. Reinstall this back on there and make sure that, if you can see it here, the the stop part is back away from the stop. Tighten your Allens up to where when you tighten it up, it will tighten that valve up. Push it on there all the way and tighten it up to where when you turn it, it'll still come around and stop, but when you tighten it up, you'll feel it tighten up, but not hit that stop. Not hit that stop right there. But anyway, that's just one little deal you can check if it's not leaking and it just kind of all of a sudden quit working. But then on rebuilding it, go ahead and unscrew this valve out of there. And there is an O-ring and a backup on there. We're going to replace that. There should be a ball under here. It is a 3/16 ball, I believe. Yes, it is it's a little 3/16 ball. Okay, save that. When you got your release valve out of the way, you got that. The only next thing you have is your set of valves. This is your valves right here. You're going to remove those because you want to make sure you clean this thing good. It takes an 11/16 socket or a wrench or whatever you got. And unscrew that plug out of there. And there should be a spring. This is your load valve spring. And there should be a copper washer. Sometimes the copper washer will stay, will still be here. Sometimes it'll come out with your plug. Put that out of the way. Now, inside here you're going to find 2 balls and 2 springs. There's going to be a big ball, 3/8 ball. There's going to be 2 springs. Now these two springs, one of them fits inside. There's a small one and a bigger one. They actually fit inside each other. So when you go back with it, it'll go back like that. Then there's also a smaller ball. It's a 1/4 inch diameter. So now you've got your check valves out of there. This is your relief valve. It's set, factory set to relief at about 10,500 psi. And you can check it, make sure it's tight. The only time you're having a problem with this is if the pump is working good, but you got a gauge on it and say it's kicking out at 9,000, 8,000 psi. Well, you'll need to take it apart, and you can try tightening this up just like maybe a half a turn at a time, recheck it and with a gauge and make sure your pressure is coming up to 10,000 or around 10,000 or 10,005, whatever, somewhere in that neighborhood. This is your filter. Now check it, make sure it's not clogged. It actually just pulls out, but it's made out of plastic, so it's you can break them very easily. This one's clean. You can just leave it in there and clean it, or you can take something like a pair of pliers probably and work that out. It's there he goes. Anyway, you can pull that out right there. It does have an O-ring on there, but being the O-ring never moves, it barely seldom goes bad, but you can put another one on there. It's just to kind of keep dirt out from getting in the pump. But pull that out of your way if you need to. If it's not dirty, you can leave it in there maybe. But then you also got to seal an O-ring right in here. It's an O-ring, and it's for the reservoir. You can pull it out. Now, the only other seals you got are down in here. This is your pump seal. There's actually an O-ring. O-ring and a backup ring that goes in there. The backup may be kind of hard to see. Sometimes they'll break up into pieces. Actually, this one is in pieces, so that's the reason I'm having trouble with it. There's actually another piece in the bottom. Okay, there's the rest of it there. You've got it completely disassembled. Next thing you want to do is clean it all up real good. Clean this up real good, clean your reservoir real good, clean it outside, inside, everywhere. Clean all your parts up. I'm going to do that, and we'll be right back. Okay, I've got it all cleaned up. Just clean up all your parts washer, whatever you got. Blow it out real good with some air. All your ports, all your holes, and blow it out real good. Make sure there ain't no trash or anything in there. I'm going to go back and put the valves back in to your hole here on the side where your valves go. Make sure, take a flashlight or whatever, shine down in there. Make sure you don't see anything kind of trash or anything in there. Kind of look at the seats where the balls sit. Make sure you don't see anything that looks damaged or anything. If you do, then you got problems. I have files that are made to refile seats, but they're pretty expensive, and so if you have a problem with that, you'd have to probably send it to somebody. Most time you don't have any problems with that. But first thing you want to do, you can go back if you ordered a kit or bought a kit. Most of the time the check valves will come with the kit. I usually don't order kits because pretty much all that's in this thing is O-rings. And I'm going to tell you the sizes or the part numbers or the numbers for the O-rings, and you can just get the O-rings from any place that sells seals or O-rings or whatever. Most of these are very common. They're all American sizes that go in this pump. The check valves, if you do lose one or one's missing or one looks back bad or whatever, rusted up or something, you can usually find them at a hardware store. I know my local hardware store has a pretty wide assortment of steel balls. Being as none of them are metric, most of the time they'll stock them at a hardware store or something. On the valves, like I said, you're going to go back with the 1/4 inch one first. Make sure you clean it. Make sure there ain't no trash on it. That's part of hydraulic jacks and stuff, is clean. Make sure everything's clean. It's the 1/4 inch one. It's the smaller ball that you took out of here. So just drop it down in there. Make sure it goes down in there all the way. Then you're going to take the springs. There was 2 of them, like I told you at the beginning. One's kind of a small spring that will actually fit inside a little bit bigger spring that's a little bit stronger. They fit in there like that. And you can just hold them like that and drop them down in there. And just make sure they both go down in there all the way. Then you take your 3/8 steel ball, that's the biggest ball, and make sure it's good and clean. Make sure there ain't no trash or nothing on it. And it drops in there next, on top of that. Then you got your plug that goes in there. And like I said, it has another spring similar to the other one. But usually what I'll do is, like I said, it has a little copper gasket on here. Sometimes it'll be stuck on this part. Sometimes it'll be stuck down here. Just make sure it's clean. You can take it off or pull it out and look at it. Just look at it. Make sure it doesn't look like it's damaged or anything. Like I said, a kit will come with one. So if you got a kit, just put the new one in there. But if you're not, if you're trying to save some bucks on that, that's the reason I'm trying to show you this where it's not very expensive to do it this way. And just put it on here or put it there first. And usually I'll take the spring. If you're having problems with it staying in there, you could put a little bit of grease on there. Just a tiny little bit. Sometimes I'll just use Vaseline for doing this kind of stuff. You just put a little on there, stick it in there, that way it sticks. Just make sure everything's in there, and then screw that back into place. You can tighten it up with a wrench. If you're using an impact, be very careful. I'm just using, it's a little electric, battery operated. It doesn't put out just a ton of foot-pounds, so you can and tighten it up. And if for some reason when you get done with it, when you go to test it, if it still leaks, you can tighten it up higher a little bit more. We're going to go ahead and do the release valve next. And it's the smallest ball that you had in there. It's a 3/16 diameter ball. Just drop it down in there. Make sure it's all the way at the bottom. Then we're going to take the valve, take this O-ring backup off of there. There's a little O-ring and a little backup ring that goes on. Sometimes they put little split ones on there. And when you go back with it, if you order, this is a 011 O-ring or an 011, or excuse me, backup. This is a backup, an 011 backup. This one's not split. You just put it on there, and you're going to put it on first to where and you push it to where it's all the way to the back shoulder, closest to where the knob would be. Then you're going to take you a 011 O-ring, same number as the backup, it's just an O-ring, and put it on there and pop it into place. You got that in there. Usually I'll go ahead and put a little more grease on there, or in this case I'm using Vaseline, and then just go ahead and screw it into place. Okay, you got that in there now. Now we're going to go back with the O-ring and backup that go in here where the pump piston is. And on it is a 112 backup and a 112 O-ring. And what I usually do is I'll put the O-ring in first, and you'll have to take something, a small little tool. I use these little scribe tools you buy. Anyway, just work it down in there. I like to buy the ones that are kind of angled. That way you can work it down in there. Work it down in there without, puncturing the O-ring. Once you get it into the groove, then just take the little deal and push it to where it's all the way down, like toward the bottom of the base. Make sure it's to where it's. You basically are trying to leave a space all the way around. So for your backup ring, after you get that, then you take your backup ring and just put it in there into the groove. Start it on one side and work it down in there. I don't know if you can see that or not, but you get it down in there and just finish working it into the groove. Just making sure it's toward the top of the pump, so it'll be on top of the O-ring. And after it's down in there, make sure it's down in there good. Then you can go back with your pump piston and just make sure it's clean. And when you go back with it on this pump, this part up here that holds the pin on your handle will face this tongue basically right here. So usually I'll go ahead and put a little bit of grease on the pump piston too, just a little bit. You ain't got to put a lot. And anyway, just kind of work that down in there to where, and you can actually hear it working. And so we got that part assembled. Then we're going to go back with the filter back here. Let's tell you what, first, let's go back with the O-ring. This is the O-ring that goes for the reservoir. It is a 144 O-ring, and just make sure it's what seals the tank or reservoir. Just put it in there. It's easier to do without that filter in there. So that's the reason I'm doing it first without putting a filter in there. You can do it with the filter in there. Like I told you again, if unless this thing is just filthy dirty or very dirty, you can take it out. It just pulls out. And after you get that in there, then put your filter back in there. You're gonna have to. Best thing to do is take something and push it toward the bottom down here, because when you push it toward the top, you don't, like I said, it's very flimsy. And take it, push down here along the base. Okay, you hear it kind of snap into place down there. And so you got that in place. So basically now you've got the unit all reassembled here. Next thing we're going to do is go back with the long bolt. Just make sure it's clean. And usually what I'll do is screw it in just a little ways, because it helps make it to where when you put the reservoir on, it makes it guide in there better. And usually at this point I'll take it and put it in a vise. Okay, you can just clamp it on that tongue right there, make sure it's secure. And then we're going to go back with the reservoir. Now the reservoir, like I said, it has a hole down here, and you got to get this to go in there, but you also got to get this to line up down here with your O-ring. And I'll usually put a little bit of grease on this, or you can put some on the O-ring. Sometimes I'll do both, just kind of help it go in there. You don't want to get too much on there, but just kind of put your little grease around that O-ring and on your reservoir there to help it slide down in there a little better. And then you're going to take it and slide it over the bolt here and line it up to where the bolt goes through this small hole. And that's the reason you leave it a little bit unscrewed, because it's easier to find the bolt. Okay, after you get the bolt lined up through into the hole here, so that's the reason you leave the bolt mostly unscrewed, is you can get it through here first, then you line it up down here, and down here you just kind of work it down in there, kind of the same way when you pull it out. Just push it, work it down in there to where it's lined up. Line up your hand where this piece on top right here, when they're new, they have a plastic grip up here to where basically a carrying handle. Line it up to where it's centered up with your pump piston and everything else right here. Just line it up, and your reservoir hole, this right here, is lined up with your pump and everything. Once you get that in there, then you just screw it on down to where it's maybe a ½ inch of it sticking up right here. Then you're going to take the cap nut. You're going to go back with a 012 O-ring, and will just fit over the threads. If you can see that, fits over the threads here, and the cap nut will screw down there, and that's what seals off around that bolt there. And right at this point, just tighten it down to where it's snugged up. I mean, where you can still turn it, because what you're going to do next is you're going to take it out of the vise and put it on something flat, a flat surface. And make sure to get on the surface, make sure everything's lined up with the base down here. So make sure it's all flat. After you get it all, make sure it's flat, go ahead and tighten up the 9/16 cap nut on the back. And tighten it up. You want to tighten it up pretty tight, because you don't want that thing twisting on you. Now at this point, you're going to need to put the knob back on there. And like I was telling you earlier, what you want to do is you want to make sure it's all the way tight. Then you take your knob and you put it on there to where the stop here is a little before this stop. So you slide down there all the way until you've got a little bit of tightening room right there. So usually I'll leave it about a ½ inch or so from the stop right here, the difference between them. Make sure it's all the way down, and then take your Allen wrench and tighten up those two Allen screws in that position there. And you want those pretty snug, but don't strip them out. There is 2 of them. Tighten that up to where you can turn it, it'll stop on the release, and when you go all the way in, it'll be tightening up against the valve will be tightened up before it hits the stop. And that is pretty much it as far as rebuilding. The only thing left to do now is put your handle back on. Put your handle back on, and your two snap rings, and we're going to add oil to it. And the oil, I'll show you putting oil in the thing. When you put oil in it, if you can see, when you look down in there, you'll see that bolt, the long bolt. And usually you want to fill it up to where it starts covering that bolt before it runs out. Because if you get too much in it, because this plug right here is actually a breather. When you buy one of these new, they actually recommend that you when you're carrying it, you have it tightened up, and then when you're operating it, you actually loosen it a little bit, because there is a hole down here and it's vented. I don't know if you can see that. It's actually vented where this O-ring goes. And so when you loosen it up a little bit, it will let some air back and forth to where it doesn't create a vacuum in the pump. This O-ring here can also be replaced. It is a 209 O-ring. You just get a new one and put it on there and put it to where it's on over top of the little ridge right there. And after you get it on there, I said put your oil in there. I said with the pump down level, make sure you fill it up to where it's almost up to where the threads for this are, and you should be at about the right level there. Screw your plug back in there, and then we're going to test it. As far as the hydraulic oil, you can go back with you can buy jack oil, or you can go back with transmission fluid. Pretty much any transmission fluid will work. You just need a real thin, high-grade oil. So I'm going to put oil in the thing, and I'm going to check it out and test it. We're going to put a gauge on there and make sure it's building up. Be right back. Okay, I'm back real quick. I was going to add this on with the same discussion on rebuilding this. This is the base unit for a P59 pump. It's pretty much the same. Like I said, the only thing it's got is it's a 2-speed, so it's got 2 sets of valves. It's got 2 valves back here. One's a valve to kick out the high-speed part of the pump, and one of them's a relief valve, just like on the other one. And basically, the only difference is on your pump piston here, it'll be shaped like that. This is your pressure pump. This is your speed pump. And basically, what happens is when you're pumping it, before you get a load on it, both of these will pump oil. When you start getting a few hundred pounds of pressure, then this one, the valve kicks out, and it just starts pumping with this one. So it'll be the same speed as the other pump, after it gets a load on there, but it's a lot faster. It's probably 3 times faster. And the only difference down inside here is where that same O-ring and backup go, it's a lot further down. So it's a little harder to get it in and out. It's further down inside there, and because it's for this pump right here now, and it's further down. But you'll also have an O-ring right up here at the top, and it is a 214 O-ring, and it just goes right up here in the top. If there's no backup with it, it just goes in there at the very top up here. You can put that in there. This is an old base that I was just trying to show you what it looked like. And also when you're cleaning it or whatever, if you take out both of these, they're both identical to the other one. 2 balls, the springs just alike in both of them. It's just a double set, and so you'll go back with it the same way I showed you earlier on the P55. And the release valve is identical. Everything's pretty much the same. Like I said, you just got another set of valves and another relief valve that's set a lot lower pressure so that one of the pumps will kick out. And that's the only difference in the 2 pumps. The reservoir is the same on this one. It's just a faster pump to get to the load. These are the old style P55s and P59. I believe they made a new P59 that is a 2-speed, but it's shaped a little different. I haven't worked on one yet, so I don't know if the seals are exactly the same or not, but this is on the older style, as you can tell. But I just wanted to add this on here with this video. I'm going to get back. I'm going to put oil in the other pump, and we're going to test it, and I'll be right back. Okay, we've got the unit rebuilt. I've got it hooked up to my gauge and ram test set, and we're going to test it out. Looks like it's holding good, 10,000 psi. Everything's checking out. Make sure the release is working. Alright, everything looks good on that pump, and so that's about it for rebuilding that P55 or P59 Power Team Porto power pump. If y'all like this video, or if it helps you out, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. I got a bunch of other stuff on there. I do videos on pretty much everything, and anything I think of. But give it a thumbs up, give me a comment. If you have any problems, let me know. I might can help you out. And be sure and hit that subscribe button. I need the subscribers. We got this deal going with YouTube where they are going to demonetize us if we don't get 1,000 subscribers. And so I need to get them subscribers up over 1,000. So anyway, help me out. That's about it. Y'all have a good one. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.